Everyone, thank you for joining us today. Very proud moment for the organisation and for me personally to be in a position to announce Mahmoud Abdelfattah as the next head coach of the Sydney Kings, 17th of all time. Yeah, thanks, sir. Someone who's got an extensive resume, but someone who I've known about and connected with previously back in my time in Memphis, but someone that we're thrilled about. So we went through an extensive search, and clearly Mahmoud emerged as the candidate for us and fit everything that we were looking for, and something that we're really privileged to be able to share with our membership base and our fans, and particularly our players coming into the season. And, we thank Mahmoud, his wife, Janine, who's been great through this entire process. And, no one wants to hear from me for too much longer. So I'm going to pass over to Mahmoud to talk for a few seconds, and then yes, as Courtney said, we'll take questions.
Assalamu alaikum. How's everybody doing? I just want to thank you, CP. I really appreciate it. First and foremost, I just want to thank the ownership group and CP for the time, just going through the interview process and giving me the opportunity. I can never take anything for granted. I'm looking forward to being in Sydney. I'm looking forward to being the Sydney Kings head coach for the coming years. Looking forward to the city. It's going to be my first time in Australia, so I'm very fortunate. But once again, I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm looking forward to getting to work. So thank you, guys.
Hogue, do you want to start us off?
I got you. Mahmoud, welcome to the Sydney Kings. Could you talk us through
what's up, my man?
What's up? Can you talk us through the process of when the Sydney Kings reached out to you, and then once you knew there was interest there and there was negotiations to take place, what went into making the decision to make the jump and come to the MBL?
100%. Thank you for asking. It's a great question. So I've known, like CP mentioned previously, I actually met CP a number of years ago during my first interview with the Memphis Grizzlies / Memphis Hustle organization. So I met CP about 6 years ago, and I can't remember, Olgan, the exact time, but it was a couple of weeks ago. A friend reached out on my behalf just with CP and communicated, hey, Mahmoud would possibly be interested. And, CP reached out. We were aware of one another, and he asked if I was interested and, what the job would require. And I definitely, I told him I definitely would be interested. And within a week or so, I was on a Zoom with him, Luke Longley, and Andrew Bogut. I went through that process. We stayed in contact, and then just went through the process of interviewing with ownership as well. And, long story short, I'm here, Olgan. So I'm thankful, man. It's been a pleasure just getting to know the ownership group a little more, getting to know a little more about Sydney. And getting to know CP as well. So it's a blessed opportunity.
So then it's interesting that you were the one who was interested in this job, and then they reached out to you after they found that out. Where do you, as a young coach, climbing that NBA ladder, where do you see this move coming to Australia as far as the progression and climbing that coaching ladder to, obviously, I assume you want to get a head coach job in the NBA one day. How did you see the Sydney Kings fitting in that ladder?
Just the success and, the people working in the organization. Following over the last 5 or 6 years and knowing the previous head coaches that have been here, Olgan, and just seeing where they've come from. And, and like I've told multiple people, I think the NBL is closest to the NBA outside of the G League, just with their development system, with the next stars, the player development players they have coming over. And it's starting to grow, as you know, and it went from 8 teams to 10 teams over the last couple of years, Olgan. And when I was in the G League 5 years ago, I think from where it is now, I think 12 more teams have added. And I can just see the NBL growing as well. And I never take any opportunity for granted, Olgan. It was meant to be. CP reached out. We touched base, and I didn't expect to be in Sydney. I didn't expect to be going to Sydney. I was like, sure, we'll make a call. But before you know it, you do your research on the organization, the city, the people, and just the relationships that I built with like I said, CP in the organization. I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm just thankful to be here. And whether I'm an NBA head coach in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I'm happy to be in Sydney for the next 2 years.
Can you walk us through some of the conversations that you had? I think it was mentioned with Chase, with Will Weaver. What were the sort of questions that you needed to ask, not just before heading here, but once you knew that you were heading here, just so you can get a lay of the land of what Sydney's like, what the team's like, and things like that?
No, great question. Honestly, more of those conversations were more about making sure that my wife is going to be happy. They're both married, so I made sure, and CPs that helped me out with that as well. My wife is actually connected with their wives to touch base, but they know who I am as an individual. I've had a relationship with Chase. I've had a relationship with Will Weaver prior to, and they knew that I was interviewing for the position, and they thought that would be just a great fit for both sides. And that was truly it, Hogan. But it was more so for the wife's safety, enjoyment wise, and doing my research. I know how beautiful Sydney is, and me and my wife are looking forward to coming.
Happy wife, happy life.
Got that right.
Yes. I know when you were the head coach of the Vipers in the G League, you guys had the highest pace in the league. The offensive efficiency was #1 in the league as well. Sydney Kings, top 3 offense last season, highest pace in the league. Is the expectation that you come in and basically implement your style of play, which is similar to what Chase Buford did, and just almost just pick up where it left off with this team that's won back-to-back titles?
Yeah, definitely, 100%, 100%. I mean, Chase has done some good things, and like I said, the coaches before. But if there's adjustments need to be made to the roster, I'm definitely willing to adjust, whether it's on the offensive side or defensive side, to any of the guys that we bring in. That's #1 priority is to, continue to build the success in Sydney, but also help each individual achieve their goal of being better than the year before. So whatever that is, I'll get to know the players a little more as we get to talk over the next couple of days and when I get to work with them individually. But it's just about progressing, getting better every day, and then achieving the ultimate goal of just team success.
Have you had an early look at either DJ Hogue or Jonah Bolden, the skill sets that you have there as guys who can, grab a rebound, run, push the pace? Have you had a look at them and seen how you might be able to implement them in your systems?
100%. Just let them be who they are. They're talented young players that obviously Jonah's been in the NBA, and DJ I feel will be in the NBA. But they're, I just scratching the surface, but I know how talented they are. I've seen Jonah when he was with the Sixers, and I've known DJ when he played in the G League as well. So they're both talented young men, and hopefully we can continue to push the pace.
How much have you been told, if at all, about the multiculturalism that exists in Australia, but in Sydney in particular, where there are pockets of different nationalities, across the city? Have you been told much about that, and how excited are you to sort of dive headfirst into the multiculturalism that Sydney has to offer?
Oh, for sure. I'm looking forward to it. It's a blessing, honestly, to come over there. I've talked to a number of friends, a number of different NBA scouts outside of the Sydney Kings organization. Obviously, they've provided some insight just on the city and the community as well. But I'm looking forward to coming over there. My wife has done her research. I know that there's a good Muslim population there as well, but it's a diverse community, and being from Chicago, it's very diverse. Being in Houston the last couple of years, it's only going to get more pretty being in Sydney with how amazing it is. So, thanks for the questions, Hogan. You were ready, my man.
Thanks, Court. Hey, Mahmoud, congratulations on your new gig. Just wondering, is there any sort of trepidation, I guess, when you come into a head coaching job where there is already so much success? I mean, it's probably a bit of a rare scenario, or a rarer scenario. Did that factor in at all, that you don't kind of want to be the guy that stuffs it up?
I'm more looking at it as I'm glad to be in this opportunity that they think I can be the one that continues to keep it going. More so. So I've been in that situation when I was in RGV. I took over after we won the championship the year before. Obviously, we dealt with COVID the next 2 years. You know, I don't have to summarize that up, but I'm fortunate to be in this position.
Have you, like, I don't know when you found out officially, but have you had time to sort of look at the roster and sort of what it needs and what you might want to go to market for? Because there's still some sort of spots for imports and things like that. Have you had any chance to have a look at that?
Yeah, definitely. That was the first thing I did before I even called CP and told them I was interested. I knew the roster, obviously how talented they are, and I just know how well CP does. Just a number of people that I've spoken to as well say that he does a great job of evaluating talent and bringing the right talent in, and he has a support system, you know, behind him in the ownership group. But like I said, for me, Jasper, it's not about what positions are needed. It's just, you know, who are the best players out there, and I'll adjust my system. And I know, like Hogue said, you know, we played fast in the past, and that's what I love to do. But if we need to mix it up, I'll definitely do that just to make sure that we find success. But as long as we get the most talented players to play for the Sydney Kings the next couple of seasons, I'll be happy.
Thanks, Mahmoud.
Thank you, my man.
Roddy, Hogan, you'll jump back in.
Sorry, you
Who
want
wants
to
to
go?
jump in?
Yeah, Roddy. Yeah,
If
Roddy.
that's okay, I got a few more.
Go Roddy first.
Easy.
Roddy, go ahead.
First off, I just want to echo the congratulations from everyone else around here. We're very much looking forward to having you in the MBL.
Thank
So
you.
your predecessor, Chase Buford, brought or used his G League connections to bring a couple of players over, you know, sort of namely Jalen Adams, who ended up winning MVP here. Are those any relationships you might look to exploit when looking to fill out the rest of this Kings roster?
100%, 100%. That will definitely be an avenue that will be discussed and talked about with CP and has been. But of course, you know, it wouldn't make any sense if I didn't. I actually had a number of players text me from the Rockets, you know, from throughout a number of NBA teams, and then the guys that play for me that are overseas congratulating me as well. So sending a few different emojis.
And just to follow Mahmoud there, sorry, Rani, I think that's an important part of you know, why Mahmoud was such an appealing candidate as well, is he's done it at every level, right? And he's been in high school and college, you know, he's played, he's been assistant, he's been play development, he's been a head coach, he's been head coach on a championship team, and then the NBA on one of, you know, going through the challenges they went through last season. I mean, he's seen everything, but he's crafted relationships all across America and the world, where I think that's important is to harness and really rely on that. Yes, that's an important part of our roster build, but he's got those long-standing relationships, and we talked to a number of players that he had coached in the past, and I've you know, all sung his praises.
I got one for you as well, CP. Like we've heard the Kings talk about how extensive this worldwide search for a head coach has been. So how do you go about narrowing it down to eventually getting your man?
Yeah, so I mean, initially it was an outreach and then fielding incoming, and it was funny when Mahmoud talks about a colleague that we're both, you know, in connection with that suggested Mahmoud. He was already on our short list, and I was chasing down his number, so it's the perfect timing of how it all worked out. And I think it's we went through a detailed process of talking to, you know, 15 people, cutting that to 7, 8, cutting that to 3. And having different stages of discussions. You know, the first one primarily with Andrew, Luke, and myself is around the basketball side, right? The X's and O's and how that works with us. And then the ownership group involvement is much more about the person, right? And involvement in community and as the leader and the face of our organization, and him as a person, and how those traits stride into, you know, being a leader of this group. And so when you start to see Mahmoud check all those boxes, I think that's important for us in terms of how we got to this point. And it makes us even more confident in Mahmoud's ability, but also him as a leader. Is we've searched high and low, and the fact that you've looked under every rock and gone, okay, this is our guy. We know that it's not you're taking the first person. It is you're going through such a detailed search, and you found the one who really suits everything that you're looking for. So I think that only fosters just a greater confidence with our entire group that he's the one for us.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Hogue, you jump back in?
Yeah, Mahmoud, do you have when you were the Vipers, did you get a look at? I'm trying to think of who you might have come across in the G League that's currently in the MBL. I don't know if you might have come across Will McDowell-White, or any of the current imports that are in the MBL. Who are you familiar with, and is there anyone that you kind of have your eye on as guys you know are pretty elite and going to be tough matchups to go up against?
Well, I coached Mr. William McDowell-White for 2 years. So he was with me for the first two seasons when I was head coach. That was my guy. I absolutely love him. I went through the league, and the imports are talented throughout. But like I said, I'm more worried about us. Is we do what we do to the highest level and the highest standard. Everything's going to take care of itself. If you go out there worrying about everybody else and who they sign, you can stay up all night. But CP's phenomenal at evaluating talent. Like I mentioned before, the ownership group is going to support him, and they want to succeed. Like they've told me before, whatever they need to do to succeed, they'll provide their support. So we'll just put the best players on the floor for the Sydney Kings, and whatever we have to do. If someone has a post player or guard, a shooting wing, and we have to do some different adjustments, different style of play, we're willing to do that.
You mentioned CP is a good talent evaluator. That aside, have you, and this might be a bit presumptuous, have you put any point guard names to him at this point, or are we still pretty early in that conversation?
Come on, Olgan, mate. You already have a link into everyone. You already know that you're just trying to field names out of us. I get it. Don't let him catch you, Mahmoud.
God has a plan.
I got one more for you, Mahmoud, and then I got a few for Chris, if that's okay. In Australia, we have an understanding of what the Sydney Kings head coaching job is, but from coming from the US and your background as well, and climbing that NBA ladder, what do people outside of Australia see in the Sydney Kings head coaching job? Do they see it in the same stature that I think most people in this country do, or where does it sit in the scheme of world basketball?
100%. Just that they feel it's a great stepping stone towards getting to the NBA. And I've talked to a number of people, and they think it's one of the top 5 jobs in the world. In all honesty, and just with everything. So, and this is not from one person, not from 2 people. It's from a handful of people that have been there and that have scouted Europe, have scouted Australia, have scouted the G. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. But Olgan, I promise you, for me, all that stuff doesn't deter. There's only one person that determines and guides me. He's guiding me here towards Sydney, and it's meant to be. And it's just a step for me. So everyone's path is different. I'm meant to be here and work with CP for a couple of years, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys and meeting you guys face to face. But I do believe this is it's a great opportunity.
I got one for Chris. Historically, or at least recently, American head coaches have not been extremely successful in the NBL, almost outside of Sydney. We were successful. You were successful with Chase. And now you have Mahmoud as well. Is there something different about the guys that you're recruiting, or is it the history of those guys before you bring them in? What do you think separates the candidates that you recruit versus perhaps some of the others who, for one reason or another, haven't succeeded?
That's a really good question. I can't tell you. I don't want to say that we know everything that we're talking about. We're obviously going to bring someone in that's successful, but I think it is more about the success in the NBA and the G League more recently. I think people look at the G League from where it was 15 years ago, and it was, much more when it was the D League, right? It was much more of development. As Mahmoud said, there are 16, 18 teams instead of 29 and 30 teams. So the growth trajectory of the G League and the NBA, I think, ties into the level of talent and coaches that are kind of fostered through that, and the level of experience they have in there. As I said, Mahmoud's had play development experience, video coordinator experience, assistant coach, head coach, assistant at the lead level. Like, I think it's just the development platform that the NBA and G League now provides as to where it maybe was 15 years ago.
when you and that brains trust of people, Bogut, Luke, Robin, Paul, when everyone came together, where did style of play sit on the list of priorities in what you want out of the head coach that you were recruiting?
Another good question. We tried to break it down into different buckets of things that we wanted to achieve and weight them in terms of, X's and O's and basketball strategy as one, style of play, character, leadership. Again, they're broad stroke terms, but we had broken them down, and it played a role in it. I think in Sydney, what we've seen, what's appealing is fast pace, high energy, playing above the rim, like exciting players. I think that's what fans have come out and seen, and has also been successful. I think they've luckily gone hand in hand. That fits with Mahmoud, but that was only a piece of the puzzle, right? Like, I think there were so many other characteristics and reasons why Mahmoud was our guy. It's much more tied into him as a coach, but as a leader. Again, you talk about players that he may have coached that have played in the NBL now, but he also coached, Jay Sean Tate, and he coached Matur Maker, and he coached Jarrell Martin, and guys that have been in Sydney and all talk about how he would be successful here, but also him as a leader and as a coach and as a friend. I think, we cast a wide net of intel sources, and it's rare to not hear anything bad from anyone across the board. So for me, that was a sign that, the character we're getting is much more important just than the style of play and basketball side.